Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. You're probably asking yourself, where's the Symphony review? Well, it's coming soon enough, but to be fair, it's the holiday season, and instead of jumping into the trollish interior of an upside-down castle, I figured, hey, why not do something a bit more seasonal for a change? Like a Christmas special. All the best sitcoms of the 90s had them, so here's my crack at it. Some of my favorite holiday memories growing up was anticipating what new smash hit was releasing for the holiday season. Christmas of '93, I received Street Fighter II Turbo for the Super NES. That Christmas night was indeed special, as I went on to make my older brother rage quit the moment I started spamming Psycho Crushers with Bison. I was still a mere child, owning a grown-ass man in the Versus column. Hey, it's not my fault. The guy didn't learn. Whatever you're doing this holiday season, Merry Christmas, bro. Sometimes family drifts apart, and who knows, maybe he still holds a grudge today. Nevertheless, that was quite the Christmas for us both. Another awesome holiday memory that instantly comes to mind was getting the Sega Dreamcast. Yeah, that launch window did me wonders, kicking off just in time for the holiday break. Little did I know the world of fighters that would soon follow. Fast forward to today, and I'm still playing a great deal of them with this guy right here next to me. Anyway, enough about my holiday dribble. Christmas is about giving back to others, and although we previously left off with Alucard racing towards Castle Dracula, we'll let that simmer for a little, as we now go back to a simpler time in that young vampire's life. Castlevania 3 wasn't our only outing with the son of Dracula. In fact, we had an exclusive release to Japan the following year on the Famicom. Wait, what do you mean that's not Alucard? Did Dracula have two sons? Well, from the looks of the most recent timeline, I find it just might be up to interpretation. Regardless, why no love for this poor kid? Well, let's heat up some hot cocoa and settle in for a holiday adventure across Transylvania, righting some wrongs in an effort to bring this unfortunate family unit some holiday cheer. Kid Dracula Enlarged is a parody of itself. It's essentially the Parodius to Castlevania's Gradius, poking fun at itself when any opportunity presents. I mean, why so serious all the time? If you've had the opportunity to take a deep dive into the Famicom library of exclusives, Konami is infamous for this. Now, for whatever reason this didn't release stateside until recently is still a mystery to me, yet there's plenty of Konami games that have this very same feel to it. YY World is one that instantly comes to mind, a sort of Avengers assembled cast of Konami's greats uniting for one hell of a little adventure. I can doom scroll for hours just sifting through Famicom titles, discovering many quirky exclusives to Japan. It's also fun just comparing the regional differences between releases, which at times can make you raise an eyebrow. There's a bit of that going on with today's story, so with that said, we now must get to the bottom of this Kid Dracula case once and for all. Our story opens upon waking from one of his endless slumbers. Kid Dracula, who we will call Alucard unless proven otherwise, discovers the Demon King Galamoth has rose to power. Yes, that Galamoth from Symphony of the Night, which you can already begin to see a sort of rivalry brewing. Now, as far as the timeline is concerned, another series of events further builds the connection between Alucard and Kid Dracula, whom canonically is 10,000 years old. Ironically, fast forward to Castlevania Judgment, and Galamoth sends the Time Reaper 10,000 years into the past to rid him of Dracula in efforts to see future plans through. Think of him as Galamoth's own personal version of death. No sort of coincidence there, right? Nevertheless, this ultimately leads to a challenge issued to our youthful young vampire for control of Transylvania, I assume. Barring his pop's trusty cape without a trace of Vlad in sight, Alucard rushes off across the countryside to reclaim his rightful place atop the lands. So, how do I explain this? Kid Dracula is sorta like the cute-em-up equivalency of a platformer, giving off a distinct feel only a Famicom game can bring. The game absolutely takes a hit graphically in comparison to prior entries. Shoot, Castlevania 3 came out a year prior, so Konami wasn't looking to make some dark gritty origin story here. This was more so marketed towards a kid-friendly audience, while still catering to its hardcores by delivering a solid platformer disguised underneath that even a seasoned Vania player would tip their hat to. If you can look past the chibi aesthetics, what you have here is a colorful cast of characters that are represented by a charming little side story that can keep you occupied for a good portion of one's afternoon. Let's get brutally honest now. Kid Dracula is Konami, taking a stab at the Mega Man formula. Seriously? This kid is a student of the game. He's got all the Blue Bomber's moves down, from the Mega Buster, which has now been given a substantial upgrade, able to fire 4-directional, preventing those situational aerial assaults. This may also be charged up to release a killer fireball, but let's be real, the charge shot. As you make your way through your many adversaries, defeating them will reward you additional magical powers. Each technique is vital to get through some of the more tricky segments of the game. I know, these sound like bold claims, and to be fair, Mega Man does platforming so good, it's easy to use him as a reference point. That's not a bad thing. Believe me, Konami is no number 2 to Capcom. Unless they're in the middle of manufacturing pachinko machines, they're every bit as much equals. Nevertheless, there's even quality of life upgrades that can refill and extend your health bar, now shockingly represented by hearts. Geez, Konami, it only took you 4 games to get it right. As Kid Dracula departs his chambers, he's greeted to the many castle residents roaming the halls. Stage 1 is a straight callback to Castlevania 3, treating us to an excellent chip-tuned arrangement of the infamous opener. Taking a brief stroll down the castle halls will quickly grow you accustomed to the in-game physics, testing your firepower while dodging past your neighboring winged counterparts. The castle floors will quickly shift, finding you pivoting on the fly as they transform into falling blocks that double as your steps to find a path forward. As you search out your father's chambers, you'll notice that he's nowhere to be found, now occupied by a tiny fright of the night that claims to be one of 3 ghosts that visit on Christmas. So, essentially a Christmas Carol? I think you got the wrong story. There is a Scrooge that lives here, but apparently he's not in. Yeah, there's a rabbit hole of lore that pertains to these guys, especially his larger counterpart that steamrolls in. Following in hot pursuit, he begins shooting a fury of blast while stomping about. He's a fairly simple opening encounter, and besting him will net you your first power-up. The homing shot presumably was learned from dear old dad, which allows you to release a spread shot that can lock in on enemies. And believe me, be ready to charge it up, as leaving Castle Dracula will find you taking to the skies, greeted by many adversaries that hover about, swooping in for some aerial assaults. You need to get a handle on things fairly quickly, as the difficulty will quickly ramp up, adapting on the fly in order to progress. Moving ahead, the stage will slowly morph into a line queue, filled with teacup-inspired elevators that carry you to the front of the attraction. A roller coaster from hell, no joke, instantly launching you into a high-speed frenzy of loops filled with trolley enemy placement, designed to send you to your grave. Even the clouds themselves are scheming away, as the stage offerings want you dead at all costs. However, there is an exit strategy to escape this six-flagged cluckery, a giant chicken no less that has zero regards for others, launching his own offspring your way. Make yourself a quick 8-piece meal and move along. Quick side note, throughout your journey you may notice that when finishing off an enemy with a special maneuver may result in an enemy drop. More specifically, coins. These coins yield a currency, which can be redeemed for bonuses upon completing a round. There's 4 in total, each granting you the opportunity to score some much needed additional lives to stay afloat. There's the lottery that finds you testing your luck at the bingo parlor, betting against the odds, going all in on blue to strike it big. You may pop into a gentleman's club with no idea how Alucard snuck in to begin with, placing bets on which colored panties the showgirls are wearing. There's Turn Pop, which grants you a spin at the wheel, which depending on your combinations, could land you a jackpot, raking in some of those sweet Vegas dollars. There's also the One Shot that lets you play the role of a master magician, sticking swords into your faithful assistant who's currently sweating bullets in hopes you'll miss. If you manage to score a hit, you'll be rewarded handsomely. What's this? A Castlevania game with an underwater segment? Well, that's a first. Here there's no frog suit to save you from those game-breaking water physics. There's some painful stretches here that will require some patience for those timely landings, yet the characters you discover throughout will absolutely make up for it, like these deep-sea divers that always seem to hit you with a perfect backstroke. After a late swim, the temperature drops as the holiday feels slowly creep in across the snow-covered fields. Inside the icy terrain lies an underground cavern filled with crafty figure skaters and tight routes of travel that make great use of your newly acquired transformation technique. Transforming into a bat will be essential to navigate the interior caves. Remember, you have finite time to fly, so each moment will count. The stage boss is one of my favorites, a combination of callbacks. An icy cold sea dragon which bursts through the frozen slabs below like the bone dragon from Castlevania 3. This battle will require you to stay attentive as the dragon floats across the sky, eager to make his descent upon you. Treading thin ice, you stay locked in, hammering away with special attacks until this golden goose is officially cooked. I can't say enough about the tiny details that gives this little 8MB cartridge so much charm. This is that big breakout moment that gave me my second wind. Taking flight across the flashing lights of New York City, You discover new life as UFOs beam down, and the city calls upon one of their own to investigate the scene. Yeah, no shit, this is supposed to be Spider-Man. Well, Spider-Men, as the whole ass multiverse opens up in the midst of all the crazy. If you can manage to break free from the chaos, you can head below to catch a ride along the subway station. On board, you get a chance to mingle with some inner city street performers looking to play a few rounds of bullyball. This game has so many memorable moments that will have you howling throughout. If shit wasn't bonkers already, you'll encounter the Statue of Liberty, whom just so happens to host a quiz show that you're now nominated to be on. The entire experience is just like this, and never once does the game attempt to take itself serious. It's constantly breaking the fourth wall in a sense. There's so many strange and wonderful occurrences throughout, incorporating in the many new moves along the way. Where again the gameplay in large is inspired by Mega Man, the diversity in design pays homage to the Super Mario series, and the combination is a recipe for success. As you enter Galamoth's realm, the platforming segments place further demand on the player, scrolling a space-themed turbo tunnel with perfect platforming. As Galamoth comes forth, he towers over Alucard, introducing our vampire to some spicy swordplay. As the battle heats up, so does Galamoth, emanating a heat wave across the screen. Remaining crouched and pivoting backwards as he draws his blade will reveal an opening for a counterattack. As Alucard wears down the futuristic fossil, he flees the scene to challenge again another day. He doesn't waste time preparing either, calling upon his legions to power his newly assembled Ghost Cruiser. This is one hell of a luxury ride, fully loaded with all the bells and whistles that would make the King of Koopas approve. The bowels of the ship are infused with dark magic, as the interior chambers house a massive particle cannon that sets this war vessel on path for victory across Transylvania. You will eventually chase Galamoth down to his base of operations, a factory filled with mad machinery that might make for far better use inside those odd IKEA warehouses you see all over TikTok. Most of these gadgets just chase you about, but will eventually lead you to your destination point at the tip top of the refinery, where you have a run-in with an angry parts and service bot that has a raging hate boner for Alucard. You must do a near perfect run if you want to stand a chance against Galamoth. As the machine charges its gears up for a rushdown attack, speed across the screen until the opportunity presents to land a critical blow. In the aftermath, Galamoth draws near to settle the score, now powered up for a grand display. This is a fairly straightforward finale, staying in sync with his charged attacks while anticipating a fiery blast in between. The key here is to make your move once he opens his mouth as he attempts to launch a projectile your way. Staying in rhythm to counterattack as the moment presents will score you the pinfall, rewarding you your first true victory in a long-running rivalry that will soon follow. As Alucard returns home, he's quickly greeted to cheers echoing throughout the lands. Not only did our crowned prince make a few new friends along the travels, but the many monsters of Transylvania pay him a visit in efforts to show their gratitude to the youthful young prince. So, with all said and done, you're probably thinking, how exactly did Kid Dracula ring in the spirit of Christmas? Well, as you begin to embark on your journey, Alucard is consumed by the idea of one day growing up and following in his dear old dad's footsteps, continuing on the legacy of the Prince of Darkness. However, as events unfold, Galamoth slowly sets his plan in motion, and for the first time in his life, Alucard is fighting for something far bigger than himself. Throughout that time, he discovers his own identity, performing many acts of bravery in a selfless manner. As he continues to do so, he not only opens up his heart to others, but slowly carves out his own legacy, which in time, not only leads him to victory against Galamoth, but also morally challenges him, questioning his father's way of life over time. This eternal conflict grants him the power to change the course of history for the betterment of all. In other words, Kid Dracula saved Christmas for the lands of Transylvania, thus bringing this holiday special full circle. Well, not entirely. There's still a few gifts that have to be given out, so hang tight, gang. When this channel first started, I had a goal to play through many of these beloved classics. I started out just doing playthroughs and hanging out with my buddies on stream, yet in the back of my mind, I always wanted to find additional creative ways to express the many thoughts and opinions I have. It's always tough to dedicate time to the hobbies you love, let alone take that passion and display it for the world to see. I struggled with that idea for quite some time, and you guys have made that idea a reality for me, and that's one of the greatest gifts I could get this year, which is what Christmas is truly about, giving back to others and growing new friendships. For everyone that has given me some sort of input on this channel, thank you. The feedback has helped me a great deal to articulate many of my points. With that said, I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Oh, and by the way, Kid Dracula also says, Happy New Year's, you lousy bums. Till next time, ho ho ho, you sons of bitches.